The palace of the kingdom was filled with golden light, tall glass windows, and endless silence that echoed through every hallway. Inside that palace lived a princess who had everything the world could offer, except freedom. Princess Jia wore the most beautiful red royal dress, embroidered with silver threads that shimmered whenever the moonlight touched them. She often sat alone beside a large palace window at night, holding a white teacup in her delicate hands. Outside, the full moon glowed like a silent witness to her loneliness. The world thought she was blessed, but her eyes always told a different story. Sadness lived in them quietly, like a secret she could never speak aloud. Every night, she would sit there without moving, watching the sky as if waiting for something she could not name. The palace behind her was warm, luxurious, and alive with servants and guards, yet her heart felt colder than the night wind brushing against the glass. She did not know that fate was already moving toward her. One evening, when the sky turned deep blue and stars began to scatter like tiny lights across the heavens, she stood on the palace balcony in her flowing red gown. The wind gently moved her hair and veil, wrapping around her like a silent companion. She looked up at the glowing moon, her face soft but lonely, as if she was asking the universe a question it had never answered before. Is there someone who can see me beyond this crown? But the night did not respond. Only the wind did. It carried her sadness through the palace gardens where cherry blossoms swayed like floating memories. And under those blossoms, something began to change in her fate. That same night, she found herself walking alone through the long palace corridors. Golden lanterns lit her path, but their light only made the shadows deeper. The silence felt heavy, almost alive, as if the palace itself was watching her. Her red dress flowed behind her like a river of silk as she moved forward without knowing why. It felt like something was calling her, something beyond the rules of the palace walls. And then she reached the garden. The world outside was different. Cherry blossoms fell slowly through the air like soft snow. The moonlight painted everything in silver and pink. And there, in the middle of that quiet beauty, her destiny took shape. A warrior stood beneath the trees. He was not like the nobles of the palace. His armor was dark, worn from travel, and his presence carried the weight of battles fought far away. He was strong, but not proud. Silent, but not empty. When their eyes met, everything stopped. The world didn't move. The wind didn't breathe. Even time seemed to hesitate. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was a quiet collision of two souls who were never meant to meet, but somehow had already been waiting for each other. She felt it first, a strange pressure in her chest, like her heart had suddenly remembered something it had forgotten long ago. He felt it too, as if something soft and dangerous had entered his life without permission. Neither of them spoke at first, only cherry blossoms fell between them. Then, slowly, as if breaking a rule neither of them fully understood, they began to talk. At first, the words were simple, careful, controlled, but the night has a way of breaking control. And soon their voices softened. Their distance faded, and something invisible began to grow between them. Something fragile, something forbidden, something real. Night after night. They met again, in the same garden, under the same moon. Between the same falling cherry blossoms. She would come in her red royal dress, hiding her loneliness behind a crown she never chose. And he would wait in silence, as if the garden itself belonged to their secret. They would sit near the fountain, where water reflected the moon like a broken mirror. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they didn't need words at all. Because silence between them had started to feel like understanding. But love inside a palace is never safe. One night, hidden eyes began to watch them. Shadows moved behind pillars. Guards whispered in the darkness. The palace had noticed what the heart had tried to hide, and the more they met, the more dangerous their world became. Still, she could not stop. Because for the first time in her life, she felt seen. Not as a princess. Not as a symbol, but as a girl who could love, yet love, in a world like her, always comes with a price. One evening, she stood alone again beside her window, holding her heart as if it hurt in ways she could not explain. Tears formed in her eyes but did not fall. The moon outside still shone, but it no longer felt comforting. Something was changing. Something was breaking. And she knew it before anyone told her. The palace would never allow this love. The world she belonged to would never forgive it. Still, she ran, through rain-soaked gardens, through falling petals, through thunder that echoed like warning bells. Her red dress clung to her as she moved, heavy with emotion, heavy with fear, and there he stood again. But this time, he was not alone. Guards surrounded them. Steel glimmered under the moonlight. The air turned cold. The silence shattered. He stepped in front of her without hesitation, protecting her even when he knew the cost. And in that moment, she understood something painful. Love does not always save you. Sometimes it destroys you slowly. The confrontation did not last long, but it changed everything. After that night, they were separated. Silence returned to the palace, but it no longer felt peaceful. It felt empty, like something precious had been taken away and never returned. She cried alone in her room, beneath the same moon that once witnessed their first meeting. But now it only watched her heart break. Days passed, then nights, but he never came, until the final night. She stood on the palace balcony in her red dress, the same place where her loneliness once lived. The wind moved through her hair. The moon shone above her like a distant memory. And she whispered softly into the empty air, "If love was real, why does it hurt like this?" But there was no answer, only silence. And somewhere far away, beneath the same sky, a warrior carried the weight of a love he was never allowed to keep.